Welcome back, loyal listeners. It's Shane and Austin with another episode of 40K Fanatics Podcast, the podcast where we talk about 40K miniatures, fun stuff, playing with our plastic mins. Sometimes we get quite serious, but usually not, because it's about playing with our plastic mins. And
it sure
women's.
is.
Let's get right into it today. Today we're going to talk about when is something done. Isn't that what we're doing? When is a
Yeah, we're
painting
doing
project? When is a hobby project finished?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be a good discussion. Kind of talking about, it's very popular these days to put stuff on a spectrum, and I think there is quite a spectrum for hobbyists / gamers, and where one falls on that field, on that graph, So we're going to
for
get into
sure.
that later, but first, as we always do, we're going to read some comments. We're going to open up the Vox channel and read some of your comments, whether you agree with us or not. These comments come from our most recent pod. Did GW fumble the summer? And we've got quite a few over on the YouTube where you can leave comments. I've also got one from Spotify. You can leave comments there. While you're on Spotify, be sure to rate and review, because that helps us do more stuff. So go leave 5 stars. Yeah. Butte Mountain says, "Hi,
yeah.
Mom."
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that
Or
cool?
they? I don't know. That's crazy.
I know, right?
I don't know if anyone's mother is watching this.
Well, they could be. You know what? Butte Mountain is getting in front of it. J. Deej 3240 says, "Thank GW for making it easy to kit bash slaughter-bound models. Made 3 of them bad boys." That's true. They were not their most inspired creation.
That's the corn guys. The what are they? World Eater Berserkers.
Yeah, that's
like
the new
big
World
guys?
Leader model. Because you got the group of them. I think it's a box of 3 of them, and then you got their little leader dude. The new slaughter.
Yeah, I feel like the leader guy could just be like kit bashed out of those because they're so similar.
They're
in
very
design.
similar. It feels like they've ran out of stuff to do with World Eaters a little bit. 17VM Rivas says, "We got Chaos Dwarfs coming this month, so it's been pretty lame for 40K." So a lot of people are thinking that yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the upcoming Warhammer preview coming up on, I believe it's July 18th. They had a video come out, kind of previewing it, and the big theme with it was the host were in a live stream talking to each other, and they're giving clues on what was coming out by wearing hats. And the big thing is that Chaos Dwarves are known for having large headwear. So the general idea is that Chaos Dwarves are coming because of this emphasis on hats.
Now, I know that you, Austin, have got a penchant for large headwear in your miniatures. Are these Chaos Dwarves going to tempt you over to Age of Sigmar?
Oh no, I don't think so.
Because you've got a few different old world models that have got some just absolutely psychotic hats.
Yeah, no, the Dawi Zar do not really tempt me at all.
Well, all right then. I've got another one here. This will be the last one from YouTube, and then I've got one more from Spotify. This is Jason Trump, who is becoming a frequent contributor, and he makes some neat points. Go listen to the whole of our last pod if you haven't caught it already, so you get a little bit of context, but he does give some, and I shall read his little essay here. This cast points out a few subtle things. First, that GW seems to be moving from being a model/miniatures company to a game platform, moving more to books/lore and other IP outreaching, and not making cool models that happen to fit in the tabletop. He continues, the second being, if it isn't Space Marines, don't expect any love, but 1 model per release, unless it is time for your range refresh, Launch Army and 1 other. For 10th, it seems to be NIDS and Eldar. There's This is coming from a Space Marine only player. He continues some more. GW put themselves into a position with the 3-year edition cycle money grab. They have to be seen uh, as having constantly releasing new models for 40k, or the game is dying. They need to pace themselves, but once they do that, the community is crying, "Where are my releases?" This loops us back to the first thing, in they are no longer a model first company. Kind of like Apple was a hardware first company, but it is generally seen as a software or service company now. And I read that poorly, I would like the record to show. But
Yeah,
I don't disagree with any of his observations.
I don't know. It's a good insight.
I think that GW is in a weird trick bag. So here's the thing. I don't think that the whole 3-year release cycle is actually going to come to pass again. I think, if anything, we're going to get like a 10.5. They may call it 11th edition. I don't think we're going to throw our old codexes away and start over. I don't believe that's what's going to happen. Um, because that just wouldn't make any sense at this point. We've had all this playtest. The game's in a good spot. They're selling models like they're literally selling models as fast as they can make new models. You know, and
Hmm.
but I think they are in a bit of a trick bag with regard to making new models, in that GW runs and supports like 4 different game systems that any single one of them would be more than your regular, any old big miniatures company would be able to handle.
Hmm.
Like the bolt action people would have a hard time just covering 40k. Like, I mean, there'd be no way. Like, name another miniatures company that could just make enough product, much less update the rules with the regularity that they do, just for 40k. Or say just for Age of Sigmar, because it also has a huge model range, tons of factions, they update the rules constantly. It's a Herculean task, and, you know, I imagine that GW Games Workshop itself is limited by real estate, just because they're on that tiny island where everything is bought and owned or protected by the government. So yeah, I don't blame them for, in the moment where they're making a range release for Space Wolves, a new range for Emperor's Children, a whole entire army of Grand Cathay, that they're like, well, what are we going to do for the Summer of Chaos? Well, put the books out and throw a couple of things. Um, and one counter too is it seems like that sometimes they get caught up in the air, and even Space Marines don't get all the love in the world, because we did cover the Grey Knights. They got next to nothing announced for
Hmm.
their upcoming book release. So I don't know, man. It's a little bit golden handcuffs, I feel like, at GW, where they just have it's a lot to do. And then there's also the idea, like the economic factor of, okay, well, if you got too much to do, why don't you just hire more people? Well, because this is Shane of 40K Fanatics Podcast's opinion, man. I figure that quite a few whole factions of just say 40k, much less entire game systems, are propped up by orcs, space marines, chaos space marines, and that's about it. The rest, Death Guard, the rest of the stuff is, I imagine they've got it, they've probably got a sales chart at GW, and it's very fat in the middle of those that I named, and super thin out there on the Eldari, the Drukari, the Tau, you know?
Hmm.
And I would bet that all those boys in blue that they sell, probably a portion of that just wholesale holds up Blood Bowl, for instance.
Yeah, it's a big subsidy
Yeah.
going on.
And so that's why you can't just be like, okay, well, we'll just hire a whole team to do Old World. No, you can't do that, because Old World is like they have a weird thing where there's almost, in this corporatization, there are passion product projects being produced, which is crazy. But that may be a conversation for another time. I've got one more comment to read. This is from frequent contributor Dave and Company. He says, "As a big Chaos player, I was excited. I must say that the Emperor's Children release was fantastic." He goes all caps there. "The various Marines, Noise Marines, Flawless Blades, and of course Fulgrim was just amazing. But that was in the spring, not summer. Sadly, the other Chaos God specific armies were decidedly meh. The Thousand Sons were boring. The Death Guard World Leaders only got one model each. Admittedly, the Death Guard Codex is great, but the nerf bat is coming. I love all things Chaos. I wish they had done more for them now."
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Dave and Company. I'd tell you what, too, and we've got another pod where we're going to fix some factions in 40K, and I was just recently, I subscribed to the Tabletop Tactics guys, and they have a little podcast that you can get. And they talked about Chaos Demons being changed wholesale into like a cyber demon sort of thing to sort of help
Mm-hmm.
them fit the sci-fi aesthetic of the tabletop, where they actually have some shooting and some armor and things, rather than just being so one-dimensional. Hordes running forward and being slaughtered in mass. And
Yeah.
man, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But that is the Vox channel. Leave your comments down below anywhere you get this and anywhere that you may leave comments, and we will read them in all likelihood, whether you agree with us or not. We have read many negative comments. And hello to that
Very
guy's
much so.
mom if she's here. It's now time for the next part of the show where we open up the bits box and talk to you about what we've done in the miniature hobby this week. Open it up, Austin.
Uh,
Now, I know that one of the projects that you've been working on will probably be our jumping off point for our main topic today. So I'll go first, and then you can segue, and we'll look like professionals.
okay.
I have been I've been reinforcing my ranks on Old World this week. I had a bit of a busy week. Like 2 weeks ago, I quit my job, such as it is, and then pretty well immediately booked new jobs. So that's been taking up a little bit of my energy. However, I did get I did sit down and did three spearmen for Old World who will reinforce my groups of 12 to bring them to groups of 15, and I have three more to do. They're about half done at the moment. Um, and then I'll have two groups of 15 because we found that if you can get that rank bonus every time in your combat resolution, it makes a big, big difference. Where I only had the one extra rank, now I'll have two. So I'll have some ablative wounds to be able to take. And still get that bonus, which will have you running from me across the fields.
I will see about that.
We will see. We will see. Um, what else have I done this week? Oh, this is hobby adjacent. So, for the last 2 weeks or so, I have posted daily over on the TikTok. The TikTok is what I like to call it. And it's been a number of bits of content. It's been clips from this show. It's been pictures of my collection. It's been me just talking about something. And so far, so good. We're up to over 250 followers there and well over 1,000 something likes. And if you are the sort to TikTok, you may go follow us there and you might enjoy it. You can get in the comments. There's quite a bit of activity in comments on TikTok. I was surprised. Um, Perhaps if you are a fan and like to TikTok, you can spread the news of the wonderment of the 40K Fanatics podcast to those people. Provided any of those people are real, I'm not sure. Some of them seem to be. But that's been kind of fun.
It sounds like it.
I mean, talking
Seeing
15
number
second
go up.
clips. Yeah, see number go up, that kind of thing. But anyway, go check us out on the TikTok. Also, we're in the bits box here, and if you want to see my Spearmen, or any previous project, or if you want to post your own, go to our Discord linked below. It's totally free to join, and you too can post in the bits box. How about that?
Yeah.
Now, Austin, what have you been working on in the hobby this week?
Well, I am working on getting my goblins to I'd say a decent point for the tournament. I'm not going to focus on getting them to like peak. This is kind of our jumping off point to peak finality, but getting them to the point where, at a glance, they are tabletop ready.
Yeah,
Uh, Working on getting some units, working on my giant. Today, I think I'm going to be doing some basing on everything. Uh, yeah, just doing that, trying to get it ready for the Game Fest tournament coming up, which I hope actually ends up happening with our 4 players. Uh, but
the pool
yeah,
is
that's what I've been working on.
the player pool is shallow around these parts for Old World, and I have to be out of town. Otherwise, I was going to play in it. Which, however, now that we see how many players there are, would have made a bit of an awkward buy for a 2 round tournament, wouldn't it? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we got to get some more people on the Old World life because it is good. It is very complicated. It's a game. I mean, look, it's called Old World. It's a game from another time, and I mean,
Hmm.
there's no way to sugarcoat that. It's a lot of unit type rules and weapon type rules. Like it's a bunch of generalities that then get modified slightly by your faction, by the unit, etc. Um, which means it is a little bit at first, especially reference the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's you do a thing and then you look it up, and you do a thing and you look it up, or you discuss what if I did a thing. Well, let's look it up and see. Um, it does. How many games have you and I played? 4 or 5 now. It does get
4 or 5, I'm
smoother.
sure.
Just like any other game, you start to learn your guys, and so you just know, oh, this unit's got X amount of attacks under whatever circumstance, and then this is what they're going to hit your guys on. Especially in our case, where we're playing each other all the time, I sort of know your guys versus my guys, which is good. Um, there are some funny edge cases that we run into that we just are like, this must be how it works, maybe.
Yeah.
And we're getting in there and we're reading carefully.
Hmm.
We're taking our time, and I feel like if we can't figure it out exactly, then it must be tough.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like I had made this point to you while we were playing last time, but it feels like some of these games you kind of want to have kind of your old head group there, a guy who's been playing this game for like 30 years. He's like, oh yeah, we ran into that like 2 years into playing this game. Here's how you do that, da 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 da, and that solves the problem. Kind of have a hobby like folk knowledge going on.
Yeah, you know
Kind of
it.
create getting new people up to speed with everything easier.
Oh, 100%. I think too though that there's a couple things going on. I think if you used to play old rank and flank historicals and then someone brought Old World, it I wager it would feel a lot more familiar, because it does not feel familiar to me at all. It's a very foreign feeling game, which I like because I like stuff to be different. I don't need to play 40K and oh gosh, what's that old thing that people used to play uh, in opposition to 40K?
I have no idea.
Someone mentioned it in the TikTok the other day. They're like, "Have you played?" It became very pay to win. Oh gosh,
Uh,
someone in the
it's
comments,
not battle. It's not BattleTech.
War Machine.
Warmahorde, War Machine. Yeah,
That
War
was it.
Machine.
Yeah, I don't need to play 40K and War Machine because those feel like the same thing, and I believe they sort of function the same as well. Um, you know, Age of Sigmar is like 40K, except it's like just the fighting part, which is cool. Uh, and then just the complexity of movement that exists in 40K, which is so satisfying when done, to the to the limits of the rules, and the sort of edge case scenarios that you can set up to then execute things. Old World is like that, but entirely different in every direction, which is neat in a esoteric sort of way. Um,
Kind of a game of geometry and like spectral reasoning.
yeah, it's a little it's got a little taste of Gaslands in it, where all right, I know I can do this, but where that's actually going to leave my guys is a little bit, you know, roundabout. Takes a little experience, and that's good, I
Mhm.
think, because it makes, again, it just makes for an experience that you're not usually getting. Um, you've also been working on your giant for Old World,
Yeah,
and he's been a bit of a he's been a bit of a new frontier of painting.
I just don't like painting lots of flesh.
It's the size of the volumes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Close that bits
Here's
box.
okay. Boom. Closed.
Start us off.
I will.
Talk to us about this giant.
Well, I'm working on the giant. He's not as fleshy as he could have been. He's wearing a kind of a tunic, so that helps a little bit. But sounds this might sound weird, but I'm like I'm much more comfortable painting faces and everything than I am painting the rest of the body. Faces, I could just like knock those out easily. Faces are nothing. Uh, rest of the body, that's where I have trouble. Just trying to figure out what needs highlighted, what doesn't need highlighted, and stuff like that. It's just it does not feel as intuitive as a face does.
Yeah.
Face,
Now,
you're like, here's the nose, here's the cheeks, here's that, done.
yeah, and so I would challenge that a little bit because okay, so let's set up let's set up the topic today. Today we're talking about when is a project finished, and that is totally a discussion of how long is a piece of string, right? It depends on the piece of string, doesn't it? So the way that I think about this is let's go to the faces discussion just real quick. Um, I w- when people talk about painting faces, it's like when people talk about playing basketball. Everybody nearly can go out and dribble around, and then quite a few people can run with a random pickup game. And then there's collegiate basketball, which is an order of magnitude more difficult. The skill becomes so much higher. And then there's the NBA, which is another world beyond that, because there's 40-year-old men that just somehow manage to stop 20-year-old dudes that jump out the gym, right? And painting faces and painting at all is very similar. So, I submit to you that these big volumes of flesh on the giant start to get into a place where, because they are no longer so miniature, the things that you do on the pickup basketball court don't so much translate to that bigger venue. Could that be?
I mean, perhaps, but even if this was like a smaller guy, I'd perhaps have trouble figuring out how to paint the rest of them because faces, I've been painting faces. It's kind of just a formulaic thing for years now. I've never really had muscle men to paint.
Sure. No, I get that. The faces thing is interesting though, because faces I feel are one of my weakest parts of my painting. I choked to death on a Diet Coke while you were talking earlier, by the way.
Oh, well, I'm glad we cut that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm struggling along now. I'm sure the audience can tell. But anyhow, faces are a good point to start this discussion because it's totally valid for somebody to paint a face a flesh color, hit it with some brown wash, paint some eyebrows on maybe, and be done. If the guy's got an open mouth, you paint the tongue, paint the teeth, and you're done, right? It'll look fine. Maybe you go in and put a little highlight on the bridge of the nose, top of the cheeks. You keep it moving. Um, but that, and then they call it done. So, back to our topic here. And then they call it done. Well, that wouldn't win you a golden demon, would it?
No.
So when is it done becomes a fun discussion now. I believe that we are all on a different part of a spectrum of painter. And I think that on the x-axis of this thing, it's paint to game, paint to paint, right?
Mhm.
Now, I am a paint to game. You are a paint to game. We could say that for sure, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've done in general. I've done some things just to paint, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in general, my goal is to just have something to field.
Absolutely. Um,
I'm not looking like hot garbage.
right. Well, and see, that's the thing. So if you were all the way, let's go left to right. Over on the left, paint to game. You just paint so that you can game. Over all the way on the right, if you're a visual learner here, um, is paint to paint, where you don't even care if the thing is a gaming piece. So this is people that are painting busts and you know big 72 millimeter nonsense and all kinds of things like that, right? They're spending
Mhm.
time they're spending time painting uh, still lifes on a plinth for their model. Um, so so you're paint to game, but there are guys that are paint to game who are like three colors and some texture paste,
Mhm.
and that's it. So they're all the way. So their idea of done is the simplest of check marks, right? Does it
Yeah.
have sand on it? Check. Does it have three colors that I can somewhat discern? Check. Finished. Those people are animals. If that's you, sir, ma'am, your models are not in fact done. You need to keep on.
I feel like something I want to get into kind of comes with this,
Yeah.
uh, and it's Games Workshop kind of codifying doneness a little bit with their games, uh, in the form of battle ready and parade ready.
Yeah. That stuff is crazy to me. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
I think at least like setting this as the standard, as like, hey, here's kind of the general idea of where you should be with this. If you want to like just be battle ready, like this is good for your tabletop. But then if you want to have something a little bit more, and here's parade ready. At least having these kind of benchmarks to offer new players is a good thing. I think at least because some people like struggle with it. They don't. They can't conceptualize. Well, what's good and what's bad? What's this that? Just kind of like, hey, here's kind of a benchmark to shoot for. Here's your guidelines. Kind of codifying uh, the general idea of it. I think works.
Yeah, I disagree with like okay. I like the battle ready idea because it sort of sets a floor of standard that hey guys, look, we're trying to have this stuff look like finished stuff. It can't be gray plastic. We'd prefer it not just be a primer color, that sort of thing. I like that. At the point where they're like, and then parade ready means XYZ, that is nonsense. That is like,
Why?
because it's completely subjective. Like any idiot with eyes can see when the thing does or does not look some facsimile to what's on the box or what's in the video game or what.
I'm going to hit back on that.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is my incredibly mechanical mind thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got step by step laying out of everything. I'm gonna go through these now just so we have them on standby. Okay,
Okay.
you have battle ready. What you do is you prime the miniature and you base coat the miniature and you texture paint the miniature. Okay, so now you've got your base colors blocked out, then you have your basing paste put on the miniature, and then you take your wash and you wash everything, and then you're done. That is battle ready. This is your standard minimum that you should have if you just want to put these miniatures on the table and call them painted.
Right. You're
Okay.
you're you're old you're
Mm,
old dropped in a oil bucket, muddy looking thing.
And then next up is parade ready, which is this is if you want to like say, hey, look how I painted my miniature. It's good. It's like I feel like parade ready has an infinite level uh, of readiness to where it's basically anything above the bare minimum.
Sure.
Parade ready is like this is good enough to have on your like little carry tray during a tournament or something. This is like I'm actually putting in the effort. This is literally just taking layer paints and then highlighting where the washes are and adding further accents. Make them more than just base colors with a wash to add some kind of depth to it.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but I got I have a number of issues with the GW painting curriculum to begin with, which is like, first of all, you've seen my collection. The viewers have seen my collection. You'd call them like they would be two and above the standard of parade ready per GW's whole deal. They don't got a lick of wash all over them. They do not have layer paints layered up in highlights. Like it's just a silly method. Like I understand they want to try to sell paints and they're trying to sell a methodology. But we're talking about when is it done? Again, I like the idea that they set a floor for look guys, we got to have some you got to have some colors on this thing. It needs to look like something. But then after that, the sky's the limit. And
Yeah,
the
what
and
I'm
the and the
saying,
method can be anything.
yeah, what I'm saying is you need a base to build your skyscraper on. This is battle ready is the base that Games Workshop provides, and
Yeah,
then parade
no,
ready is then the infinite number of stories you can then add on top of that.
sure, sure, and I quibble with the way that they sort of seem to want to codify that as well, but that's okay. We're in agreement on that. Now, I think a much more interesting piece of this is to ask the viewers where they are on the spectrum, because a golden demon painter is not worried about playing the game with whatever it is they are painting, because they may be painting diorama, entering diorama. They may be entering small unit, right? They might have built some ridiculously huge base or whatever, this crazy thing for their large model that would make it, it's not even on the right size base to play with. So they obviously are not painting to game, they're painting to paint. And so when do those guys say something is done? And the answer is when they simply run out of time, or when they run out of willpower to just keep on pumping hours into the thing. Now, that is not, and these guys will tell you, that is not a viable method for an army that you might want to play the game with or that may have a model count in the 60s, right? You can't do that. And it's wholly impractical that every single raptor in my Chaos Space Marines army would be to some world world beating standard. So you would say, well, what do I want this to be when it's finished? Model to model, when is it finished? And my answer to that because I don't quite paint to paint, but I'm very close. I paint a game, but I also find myself painting a lot of stuff for games, other games, that I don't do a lot of playing. So you could say that I might paint to paint, except in my brain there's like, but I'm going to game with it. Except I know I'm not going to game with it. So I end up right on the edge. And so where I try to go, and this is I think this is like the question that the audience should ask themselves, and leave it down in the comments your sort of mentality or what you think about this if you sort of do this thought experiment. Um, what I try to do on any project that, say, a unit of 5 single model, something that I want to look good, because not everything you do that. Sometimes you knock out 3 quick old world spearmen and you keep it moving. So when are they done? Well, when they look like the others that were batch painted somewhat quickly, just to be done. And I've decided that this method is going to be these 7 steps, and I'm going to do those 7 steps, and then I'm going to say finished. However, take my Chaos Sorcerer that you guys can see in the bits box on the Discord and over on the TikTok. That guy has got quite a bit more going on. And the idea was I wanted to, I was going to call him finished when I had stretched on the face. And when I say stretched, I mean tried stuff with my painting that I had not before. I wanted to stretch on the face, and I wanted to, uh, I wanted to sit at like my current plateau for all of his cloths. And that was, and if I did those 2 things, then I would call him done. And now we go to your giant, because he is a sort of thing that's a little outside of your comfort zone. And that's what I was saying the other day. You and I were talking about this off the pod. You know, you're like, he's got the muscle islanding going on. I'm thinking about glazing all over and stuff. And I said, "Oh, why don't you mix the dark part of the island and the light part of the island half and half, feather that in on the bottom sides, and then glaze and blend it." And you're like, I don't know, boss. But I think that would be good for like the stretching of the skill. Now, not everybody is going to necessarily want to stretch a skill. However, I think as you're on this spectrum of, do you paint to game or are you closer to paint, because people are going to be in different spots along that, uh, it's fun to pick a thing, like one thing on a model, and say, I'm going to try to get better at XYZ. And making the attempt, as long as it doesn't go completely wrong, after you've made the attempt, you call it done. Because there will have been stretch, there will have been growth, and now you can, on the next one, try it a little bit more if you want. Come back to it later. Like, that's how learning works. One doesn't have to bash their head into this thing until they get it or not. That's for the Golden Demon folks. They're doing that because they don't care how long it takes within not much reason. What do you think of that idea?
I mean, I'm coming at this from a time crunch.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I can do what you suggested, but if it turns out bad, then there's however many hours I spent working on that's gone, and I'm working a 40-hour work week and having other responsibilities in my life that I'm trying to like get these crunched up in.
Yeah. Well, so when will you call the giant done? What's the idea?
Well, the idea is to get him to a point where he's basically battle ready, and then uh, after the tournament, we can get to parade ready,
I see. I
or at
see.
least a personal battle ready.
Right, which that's the other thing too, right? The whole battle ready, parade ready. I like your battle ready is a heck of a lot better than others. It's way cleaner. It tends to be somewhat highlighted. Like you don't ever just. I've not seen a single model of yours that is just two thin coats of base coats all around and then dipped in the dark wash. Looking like looking like your model got lost in the oil change pan.
Yeah, for me, at least the way I look at it is my concept of battle ready is kind of like temporary status. It's kind of like this is just to get me having something on the table for now, and then later on I'll get it looking better.
Well, what are your opinions? I've kind of given mine. What are your opinions for our viewers who struggle with the idea of like when's it done? When is this single tyrannid termagant done?
I think I think what you have to do is, as you were saying with the spearmen, you kind of like making them look like the others. You kind of need a plan set in place. So over like, what level am I going to try to make this look like? What level are we shooting for? Try to reach that level. Uh, Try to make it fit with your army if you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, because there's like some goal setting at the beginning that you can do, which is how much time can you
Yeah.
can you Austin actually sit and paint in one sitting, right?
Yeah.
Like
If you've
what's a painting like? I mean, let's just use you as an example. What's a painting session for Austin?
just a couple hours,
Yeah, and then are you sort of done with it because you don't have any more patience, or you just run out of time in the evening, or a bit of
I
both?
just ran out of time.
Yeah, see, I don't ever have a situation where I run out of time, but I find that
Aren't you
after,
privileged?
yeah, um, I'm I'm
We were
all
talking about it's only done when you're done. It's like, well, some of us don't have that kind of privilege.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm always the voice of privilege on the spot. I always have been. That's why people get mad at me. But however, I find that at about 4 hours, I just stop giving a bleep. And when I'm doing something that takes more than 4 hours, so uh, bigger models especially, that just because of the physical volume of paint you got to get on them, I can't get them done in that time period. I find I just have to say, all right, that's enough. Because I'll start to rush and hurry, and then the quality goes down if I'm trying to have it be real nice, you see.
Yeah.
Um, so that sort of butt clock, like how long you can stay in the seat, should be a part of the consideration. If you're a person who only has about 45 good minutes of painting and you've got to paint 30 termagants, right? Then you're going to want to figure out a set of steps that you can paint one of those in like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Because then maybe like, okay, well, I'll do step one 5 times and that'll run out about, or 10 times. And step one 10 times will run out the whole 45 minutes that I'm good for. And then you say, okay, well, then I just do 45 minutes times 3 days and it's done, right? Or however many steps
Mhm.
you've got, right? So you get them all painted in a week to a standard that you're happy enough with and can actually do. Because I think that's another thing is people will sit down and paint their first Space Marine, take 7 hours on him, and then be looking at down the barrel of, well, I can't do that again. 7 hours took me a week and a half to get. 7 hours of actual paint time took a week
Yeah.
and a half. It's like, well, this army is now going to take me 25 years to paint. Unacceptable. You've got to call him done much sooner than that. And of course, there's things like you'll get faster and stuff, but I've heard of people, doing that kind of thing where their test model just they keep futzing with it, and it's a little bit of when's it done, and it's a little bit of you got to get it done, and that balance I think is really what we're ultimately talking about. Because even the Golden Demon guys who are going to put 1,000 hours in something, there is a cap, which is at some point the Golden Demon competition is going to come around, and it's either got to be entered or it doesn't. And once it's entered,
Hmm.
it's done.
Yeah.
Because I'll be damned if you got 1,200 hours in something, you put in Gold Demon and it didn't win. There in no way you're going back to mess with that thing Forget it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think the way to go about it is to get at least one model done, and then work through that model and kind of break down how you did it. Could you do it faster? Kind of get a kind of production method made out for it.
yeah, and sometimes you find shortcuts for stuff that you didn't even realize about, 10 models in. It's like, oh, I can just skip
Yeah,
that step entirely and it makes no difference. But
yeah. It's kind of, I call that your prospecting miniature is the one that you first start out, and I mean it can take longer just to kind of like try to figure out what you're doing with it. Uh,
yeah, your test model.
but yeah, your test model, trying to figure out what are your steps, how can you do this, and then taking that and then kind of putting it into production. How can you get this down pat faster, smoother? And one big thing about that is not making just completely crazy schemes. If you're gonna have like 30 of these guys, and you're in for a crunch.
Sure. And also, we're talking a little bit about two things at once. Like we're talking about army painting and we're also talking about single model stuff because my
Yeah.
favorite stuff to do is single model stuff, which is characters and things like that. And, you know, I don't spend any 100 hours on anything. I'm not there yet in my painting. Uh, in that there's sort of a point of diminishing returns where like I only am skilled enough to massage my paint job so much once it's nearing completion, because that is sort of the finer points of the whole thing. However, I think that willingness to make one or two stretches is very rewarding, and then limiting what you're going to do with those stretches in that I'm going to stretch on this face. It may not turn out the way that I would like, but if it even half turns out, I'm going to call it good, right?
Hmm.
Because what that does is it lays the foundation of the concept in the painter to then nail it the next time.
Yeah.
You don't want to be trying to do that stretch phase on 20 Space Marines in a row. But if you've got a character, something like that, maybe the guy's got a big banner and you're thinking, all right, I'm gonna paint some cloth for real with texture and deep contrast, then that's what you're doing. That's sort of the point of focus of that model. That becomes the exercise because the rest of it you're going to do like you normally do. It's going to be comfortable. You're going to paint the guy's
Yeah.
pants and boots just like you've painted all the rest of the pants and boots your whole time.
Hmm.
But then you're going to get to that one stretch thing and take an evening on it, and then whether it turns out perfect or not, you call it done. That's my biggest tip because everybody knows that perfect is the enemy of good. And ultimately, we just need them to be good. There are so many that look bad thanks to that battle ready standard. So many that look like they've been dropped in acid.
I think our next podcast needs to be about washes.
And how I've nearly abandoned them entirely.
How you poo poo them all the time, and I'm over here waving the flag of washes, talking about how they're the greatest thing ever.
Just because if I want to paint shadow, I can just paint shadow, Austin. But that would be a good pod, and I bet you there are plenty of wash stands that are going to back you on that. But we've ran a little over time. So get in the comments. Let us know, when is it done to you? What do you think of some of the thoughts that we've shared here? Let us know. And until next time, don't forget to
Hey, fanatical.